Hello, good morning, my wonderful students. How are you today? I believe you are perfectly okay and fine. It is nice to have you in class again this morning. I miss you. I'm sure you miss me too. I want to appeal to everyone to pick his writing material, sit down quietly, stay away from distraction, get set for class, and let's learn. Let's interact, let's learn. Today we'll be considering literature in English. And our topic is prose. Remember, I remain Mr. Dakbori Moloye. Let's examine the objectives of this class. This class, we should be able to define prose. After this class, we should be able to define prose. Also, we should be able to explain the two major types of prose. After this class, we should be able to explain the two major types of prose after this class. We should also be able to define fiction, and explain types under it. And number 5, we should be able to define non-fiction and explain types under it. And lastly, we should be able to juxtapose, that is, differentiate between fiction and non-fiction at the end of this class. But before we proceed, let me do a brief revision of the last class. Last class, we studied figures of speech. I told you to go to your past questions, get enough questions on figures of speech, and devour them. That means devour means solve them. And I believe you've done that. And I told you last class that figures of speech are the most important elements of literature because they make literature different from other writings. The only thing that differentiates literary works from other works is figures of speech. That is what makes literature unique and stand out. And I said something, once you're a master of figures of speech, then you can be a good literary critic. You can be a good literary critic. So I will advise you, if you have a dream, if you aspire to be a guru on this subject, please work very well on figures of speech. Yes, prose. We all know we have 3 genres of literature. We have 3 genres. We have prose, drama, and poetry. Today we are picking prose. And this is that part of literature that has no formal metric structure. No structure. It is not in metric structure. That is not a poem that is metered. Not a play that is written in acts and scenes. It has no permanent structure. And it's one that allows for natural flow of speech. You write from now to tomorrow. You are free to flow, natural flow of speech. And like I often said, simply put, a prose is a straightforward writing done in paragraphs and chapters form. Straightforward writing done in paragraphs and chapters form. That is, it's a long narrative. What is that word? Long narrative that is done in paragraphs and chapters form. Let's see features of a prose now. Features. Number 1, it has no intentional structure. It's not structured. The only thing you follow there is follow your chapters and your paragraphs. Other things, you flow the way you want it. Then prose are written in paragraphs and chapters. You write prose in paragraphs and chapters. You have chapter 1, chapter 2. Then you see paragraphs division in each page. Then lastly, it is made up of characters and incidents that are organized in an order, in an orderly manner. The characters and events in a prose work are ordered. As you have the issue of plots. Plot is the sequential arrangement of events in a work of art. So in prose work, the characters and the events are chronologically ordered. They are ordered chronologically. Let's note that also. Then I said we have two types of prose. We have two types. We have the fiction and the non-fiction. When something is fiction, the word fiction is from a Latin word, fictus, which means to form. You form something. You create something from your imagination. You assemble things. However, a dictionary describes it as imaginary events or people. Merriam-Webster describes it as imaginary events or people. And from my own perspective, fiction is imaginary writing, product of your imagination. And I call it a deliberately fabricated account of something. Deliberately fabricated account of something. That is something based on your imagination or your creativity, yes. Your ability to think and write. This is what fiction is all about. Your ability to think, to create, and to write. So fiction is not real stories. Not real stories, but products of imagination or creativity. So that is one thing about fiction. They are not real. They are product of imagination and creativity. Then, two types of. Before then, we have non-fiction. Yes, before we go to types of fiction, let's say non-fiction also. On the other hand, non-fiction describes real events rather than telling a story. Real stories. Real stories. That is, here, you don't invent anything. You discuss products of your experience, what you have experienced. I said it's based mainly on facts and real life events, not conjectures and imaginations. So these are real life stories. Non-fiction is a real life story, not imaginations. Or creative writing or creative, no, there's not imagination or creative writing, not imagination or creative. So this is true life story. Let's see examples of fictionalized prose. Fiction, I said, fiction is imaginative and creative, not real. Examples include Animal Farm. I wonder how someone will be in art class and you won't have love for novels. I'm sorry, you're in the wrong place. Here in art class, the major driving force for everyone in art class is love for reading. People in art class read wide. And the first type under fiction, which is not true story, not true, is a novel. And the novel is a long narrative, long work of narrative fiction, long. Mainly written in prose form, we know that is a prose. Then is derived from the word novella, which means new. New means something creative and imaginative. And let me say this, for any work of art to be regarded as a novel, it must have at least 35,000 words. For any work of art to be regarded as a novel. Such work of art must have at least 35,000 words. So a novel is a long work of narrative fiction. Note that. And we have these examples. Animal Farm is a novel. For those who are vast readers who have read a lot, you must have read Animal Farm by George Orwell. The Old Man and the Sea, also another novel. These are novels I read in secondary school stroke early years of higher institution. Then Great Expectation by Charles Dickens. These are novels that are expected to read now or later in the future. These are novels because they are more than 35,000 words. Note that. That's one. And they are long narratives. And they are fiction in form. They are not true. Then we have the novella. The novella is not a novel and not a short story. I said it's shorter than a full-length novel, but longer than a what? A story. A novella is meant to be between 60 and 120 pages. 60 and 120 pages. Things are changing. You know, I said this is for novel. The novel must have this number of words. I said the novel must have 3500 words. That's 35,000 words. But now, even this classify as a novella now. That is, anything less than this, anything in this range is what? A novella. That is, for a novel now, let's correct this impression. That is, for a novel now, a novel must have 45,000 words at least. Then a novella is between 7,500 and 40,000 words. That's what's classified as a novella. A novella is not a short story and not a novel. It's between the two. Not so much to be a novel and more than a short story. And it is a work of fiction because it is a product of imagination. You can see all these Art of Darkness by John Conrad, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. These are novels you can Google their summary online. Advice, if you can't read them entirely, Google their summary online and learn about their content. They also have short story. A short story is a brief work of art, usually between 1,600 words and 20,000 words, usually brief. And it has a single plot and few characters. Note this: single plot, and a few characters. Single plot and few characters. Then your short story is usually concerned with a single effect. I said it. Single effect conveyed in one or two episodes or scenes. Imagine that. 2 episodes or scenes. Very, very small. In those days, we used to read Ade Goes to School. Yes, we know Ade Goes to School. You know it? You can't. You are too small. You are too young for such a book. We read those books in the 1990s. Ade Goes to School, Simbi the Sugar Girl, and all these novels of less than 20, 30 pages. They fall under short stories. And sometimes you have a compilation of stories. You have a compilation of stories, like you have 4 or 5 stories in a book. Those are short stories that are compiled in a book. And we have many examples there. The Happy Prince by Oscar Wilde, The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Gilman, then The Story of an Hour by Kate Choppins. I'll say it again. If you can't read all these books, if you can't lay your hands on reading them, Google for their summary online Learn their content. These are things that boost your knowledge of literature. They boost the knowledge of literature. Yeah, we also have a fable. A fable is peopled by animals. They are stories peopled. That is, the characters are animals, peopled by animals. Like I said here, it's a didactic lesson given through some sort of animal stories. Thank God some of us are used to cartoons. We watch some cartoons where animals speaks in the cartoon. Animals speak, they convey messages to us, they teach us moral lessons. That is a fable. A fable is intended to tell a moral story, provide a moral story. A fable uses animals as main characters, although they are presented in this form. Then, a fable also personifies the animal characters, sense that they are meant to act like humans, act like humans. That's why they say they are personified. If Animal Farm is a compulsory text for everybody to read in secondary school. If you go through secondary school and you don't read Animal Farm and Gulliver's Travel, then you're not an art class student. You did not pass through art class. Something must have been wrong with you. Then The Fox and the Crow. The Fox and the Crow also, another novel that we need to lay our hands on and go through. These are all fables because they are peopled by what? Animals. The characters there are animals. Then epistolary now. This is novels in letter form. Let me put it that way. Novels. The word epistle in the Bible. Epistle to the Romans. Letter. So these are novels in letters form. Simply put, is exchange of letters between or among people that is well documented. Exchange of letters between or among peoples that is well documented. Imagine you have a collection of letters between myself and my wife. Let's assume we've met since university days and we've been exchanging correspondence. Those letters, we've been saving them at home. I'm trying to make them a story, our love story. That becomes an epistolary because it's a novel made up of what? Letters. A novel made up of letters. Then, in this form, we have things like The Color Purple by Alice Walker. We have Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. And we have a common one I know very well. This one I've gone through it myself. Very common. So Long a Letter by Miriam Barr. Miriam Barr is a Nigerian. And she wrote that wonderful story. So I realize that we all go through that story at a later time. We go through it at a later time. Then, allegory now. Allegory is a figure of speech in which abstract ideas and principles are described in terms of characters, figures, and events. Abstract ideas are discussed in forms of character, figures, and what? Events. Here, ideas are discussed in forms of character. Like characters are made to act as ideas. They are made to, ideas are made to act as characters. They are made to act as characters. Then, the objectives is basically to teach moral lessons. If you have gone through Pilgrim Progress, this wonderful book, I read this when I was in my primary school. Here, Christian ideas like faith, salvation, and lots more were made to act as characters. There were characters called faithfulness in the book, faithfulness in it. Faithfulness, they were meant to act like characters. They acted like characters. The same thing here and here. The butterflies, yes, they gave characters to some virtues. So that's what an allegory is. Then for romance, romance is not the so-called romance that students are used to these days. We have romance in three forms. We have the Gothic romance, which is a classical story that contains all standard elements. It has existed as long as the 18th century, where they discuss dark mood and mysterious things of old. That's Gothic romance, mysterious things of old. Then an historical romance has many stories and poems written about legends. Really King Arthur. Historical romance is stories about legend, stories, poems, songs, and plays written about legends. And mostly, it was about this legendary King Arthur. Then lastly, the one we have now, the contemporary romance, which are stories of love, stories that discuss the beautiful nature of things, stories that discuss relationship and stuff like that. So this contemporary romance, this is what students are used to these days when they tell you that I'm reading a romantic novel. That is what they do. That's what they say. And the other ones, I said the historic romance has to do with stories about historic and legendary people. Then this one is stories about mystery, as in things of mystery in the past and dark powers. And let's see examples of non-fiction now. Non-fiction, examples of non-fiction. The first is a biography. A biography is the life history of somebody written by another person. The history of a person written by another person. A person writes biography, who writes it is called a biographer. And it is the life story of a person written by another person. Like we have here now, Shakespeare, a life. This is a writer. He wrote about Shakespeare. The life of Samuel Johnson. This is a writer. Wrote about Samuel Johnson. Why this word? A biography of Clary Lex Potter. This is the character written about, and this is a writer. This is a writer. Then let's go to autobiography now. For autobiography, this is a story of a person written by himself or herself. Let's put that way. The story of a person written by himself or herself. The person here is writing a story about himself or herself. And in such a case, the person must be alive to write such a story. Here the person written about might be dead. The person might not be alive again. But here, the writer is alive to write his or her story. And here now, we have examples of this. The box, Tale of the Dark Room. This is the writer, and he's writing about himself. The autobiography of Benjamin Franklin. This is the writer, writing about himself. My Prizes. This is the writer, and the story is about him. Also, we have memoir. A memoir is a well-written, factual account of somebody's life over a period of time. It's someone's life history, someone's story over a period of time. It is what someone has gone through over a time that the person decided to document. So it's not all the events of his or her life, but his or her experience over a time. I once read a novel then, The Diary of a Jambite. The guy wrote about a story as a Jambite, that is, a new undergraduate. He wrote how he got admission, his first 2 years in school, how difficult it was for him to adapt, the mistakes he made, and the ways forward. Here we have the diary of Obasanjo, what he went through as a soldier, my command. He wrote this in prison, and he stated what he went through then during his military days as a military man. Yes, Ake by Soyinka, the years of childhood, is also a story about Soyinka's childhood, what he went through as a young adult, And lastly is Homage by Kathleen, Homage to Cataluna, and this was written by George Orwell. These are stories of people's life over a short period of time, what their experiences were over a short period of time. The last one is a journal. A journal is a well-written account of incidents. Mostly they are educational and professional. They are serious magazine that discusses, they are magazine that discuss research. They discuss research work. They discuss research work. So there are journals that discuss research work, and we have them in forms: academic journal, we have the social journal, and the company journal. Then the essay, we all know this essay. They ought to be in classes. Our long composition on topics. They are long data composition based on a single subject on a topic. And it can be expository, it can be narrative, it can be persuasive, it can be argumentative. This is a great time to go through this by yourself. These are things we've done in class. Then the last is the history. History has to do with narrating past events for young minds to learn from. It's a tale that of what has happened or may have happened in the past. You narrate past events for others to learn from, and you can see many historical events here. That others can learn from. Many historical events that they can learn from. Then lastly is comparing between fiction and non-fiction. Let's say the differences. Number one is that fiction is imaginative. This is based on fact, not imaginative. Then fiction is based on actual events, often based on actual events. Often, not all the time. This one is basically based on actual events and loses credibility. If fabricated, to lose his credibility. Then this is subjective, narrow-minded. This can be always objective. Then this can have different points of view. But this has the author's point of view only. And lastly, this is deeply interior. That is based on what you know and you imagine. This is exterior, your personal experiences. In conclusion, a prose is straightforward writing. I told you, done in paragraphs and chapters form. Then the fiction is not believable. A fiction is imaginative work, is creative. The non-fiction is real life story. Non-fiction is real life story. And the difference is the reality and the imaginative factor. That's the difference. One is reality and one is imaginative. For reference purpose, I want to advise you to please go through this book, read from this book, research through this book. You will know more about prose and what we discussed so far about the concept. And lastly, against next class, you work on this. Define the following literary concepts. You go home and work on them for me against next class. They are in my slides. But try and add new things to your own. Research and add new things to your own. Define the following: fable, autobiography, romance, allegory, history, journal, novella. All these are types of prose that you need to work on and write for me against next class. Then I want to say thank you for listening to me. God bless you. Remain blessed. I love you all.